permanent bases after massive drills in Crimea and near its border with Ukraine. The Defence Ministry says it's successfully completed its exercises, but military hardware will be left behind for another drill later this year. NATO and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky have welcomed the de-escalation, but both say they'll remain vigilant. Western powers had been calling on Russia to de-escalate after its military build-up near the Ukrainian border and in Crimea. Charles Stratford is in Mariupol, near the border with Russia, and says there's still uncertainty in the area.
The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has tweeted. I'll read out what he says. He says, reducing the number of troops on our borders proportionally reduces tensions. Ukraine is always ready but welcomes any steps to reduce the military and de-escalate the situation in Donbass. Ukraine seeks peace and thanks its international partners. Despite a tweet like that from the Ukrainian leader, who we've seen in recent weeks appealing to the international community and NATO members for support in the face of what he describes as a Russian provocation, there is still great distrust in this country. You know, you speak to people on the ground, close to the contact line, certainly on this side of the contact line where we've been for the last few days, and you witness some of the shelling as well. We saw shelling in the town of Avdiivka 3 or 4 days ago amid this escalation, and people are very distrustful of anything that Russia says, and bear in mind that there is still no lasting political settlement that has been agreed upon, and we are now entering the 8th year of this conflict.
Ukraine's government has started the lengthy application process for Chernobyl to be considered a World Heritage Site. This Monday marks the 35th anniversary of the 1986 nuclear disaster, when a reactor at the power plant exploded. Dozens of people were killed and thousands more died later, mostly from radiation-related illnesses. Much of the area around the plant is abandoned and has become popular with tourists. World Heritage Sites are designated by UNESCO for having cultural, historical or scientific significance. A funeral is currently being held in the US state of Minnesota for young black man Daunte Wright, who was shot dead by a police officer this month. Friends and family paid tribute to the 20-year-old, who was killed during a routine traffic stop in Brooklyn Center near Minneapolis. The officer has resigned and been charged with second-degree manslaughter. The funeral was just days after former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty of murdering George Floyd. Wright's family said they hope for the same justice during a tearful eulogy.
I never imagined that I'd be standing here. The roles should completely be reversed. My son should be burying me. Oh. My son had a smile that was worth $1 million. When he walked in the room, he lit up the room. He was a brother, a jokester. He was loved by so many. He's going to be so missed.
John Hendren is live in Minneapolis. And John, tell us what they've been saying or what else has been said during the funeral.
Well, Daunte Wright's mother, shortly after that sound you just played, broke down so badly that she couldn't complete her remarks. As the family's lawyer, Benjamin Crump, says, she's a member of a fraternity that no one wants to belong to, and that is black men who have been killed at the hands of white police officers. The Reverend Al Sharpton spoke there. We had remarks as well from the family lawyer, Benjamin Crump, who spoke about the man who was lost during that incident. Daunte Wright was killed when a white police officer shot him. She says she thought she was firing a taser, but fired her gun instead. She quit her job the day after that and now faces a manslaughter charge. But as the family says, that will not bring Daunte Wright back. The man who gave the eulogy was the civil rights leader, Al Sharpton. This is a little of what he had to say.
We struggled through all of that, but we are going to now, in his name, in the name of Daunte, we're going to pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act as federal law. We are going to make it against the law all over this country to keep bringing us to funerals for our young princes.
And John, this happened during the Chauvin trial. How did the Chauvin trial affect this incident?
Well, one thing it did was bring all of these dignitaries together at the time when the trial was happening. In the middle of the trial, that is when Daunte Wright was killed. So everyone here, about 15 kilometers away, was already gathered when another black man was killed at the hands of a white police officer. So it really highlights that continuing trend. So you've got an incident after that in Columbus, Ohio as well. And essentially what we're hearing is people here just wrapping all these incidents together and saying something needs to be done. And one of the things that Reverend Al Sharpton was talking about, you heard him mention the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. Well, among other things, that would stop racial profiling, or it would ban racial profiling, and it would ban chokeholds. You may recall it was the knee of a police officer, Derek Chauvin, that was on George Floyd's neck when he died. And so they're using that to link that event with a practice that many civil rights leaders would like to see banned across the country.
John Hendren, thank you very much indeed. The head of Indonesia's Navy says a missing submarine with 53 sailors on board will run out of oxygen by Saturday. The KRI Nanggala 402 lost contact during a military exercise on Wednesday. A search and rescue operation is underway, where an oil spill has been spotted off the coast of Bali. From Jakarta, Jessica Washington reports.
In Indonesia, this rescue operation grows more urgent as the hours pass. 53 people were on board the KRI Nanggala 402 when it went missing, somewhere in the waters near the island of Bali. The submarine has been in service for 40 years. Its crew was taking part in a training exercise when it lost contact in the early hours of Wednesday morning.
Until now, we still have not had contact with the submarine KRI Nanggala, while the search is being done intensively.
Indonesian authorities requested help from the country's nearest neighbours.
Assistance from neighbouring countries includes Singapore in the form of the Swift rescue ship. It's a submarine rescue ship.
Malaysian soldiers are on board a rescue vessel and expected to reach Indonesia in a few days. And the Australian government has also offered to provide assistance.
It is not a submarine that Australia operates. Our submarine class is quite different. But whatever we are able to do, we have undertaken to do.
Indonesian military personnel spotted an oil slick in the sea, which officials say could indicate a fuel leak. Time is now at a critical stage in the rescue operation.
The oxygen in a blackout condition can last for 72 hours or 3 days, so that if contact was lost at 3 o'clock, the oxygen will last until Saturday 3 o'clock.
Authorities say the submarine was in good condition, suitable for combat. It underwent refitting in South Korea and was returned to Indonesia in 2012. This is the first case of a missing submarine for Indonesia, but fatal accidents involving military equipment are common. The KRI Nanggala 402 was built in the late 70s in Germany and has been in service in Indonesia since 1981. Defence experts have long called for a major overhaul of some of the country's ageing military equipment. Indonesia is looking to expand and upgrade its submarine fleet in coming years, but experts say the task should be treated with urgency.
I'm not saying our maintenance is not good, but accidents have happened here many times, especially when it comes to old military equipment.
As the search continues, investigators are asking how a routine drill turned into a major crisis for Indonesia's Navy. Jessica Washington, Al Jazeera, Jakarta.
Myanmar's opposition government is calling on Southeast Asian nations to withdraw the junta leader's invitation to a summit. The 10-member ASEAN group is due to meet in Jakarta on Saturday to discuss the crisis caused by the military coup. It's so far claimed more than 700 lives. The unity government urged members to recognise its legitimacy ahead of the meeting and not to recognise the coup.
Please recognise and hear the cry of Myanmar people for longing for democracy, equality, unity, prosperity, by collaboration, supporting and recognizing national unity government of Myanmar.
A Hong Kong investigative journalist has been found guilty of making false statements while obtaining information into an attack on anti-government protesters. Speaking outside court, Bao Choi described the ruling as heartbreaking and called it a dark day for the territory's press freedom. Choi produced a documentary showing police officers delaying their response to a mob attack against commuters and protesters at a train station in 2019. The ruling comes a day after the broadcaster Choi works for rejected a press award for her programme.
I believe those who have watched the episodes have already been the living proof of the values of the documentary itself. Even though I was convicted of guilty, I don't see journalism as a crime. And I hope the industry can find ways out to pursue our highest value of journalism in the long run.
Russia has ordered its troops back to their permanent bases after large drills in Crimea and near its border with Ukraine. The Defence Ministry says it's successfully completed its snap checks, but military hardware will be left behind for another exercise later this year. And a funeral has been held in the US state of Minnesota for Daunte Wright, shot dead by a police officer this month. Friends and family paid tribute to the 20-year-old who was killed during a routine traffic stop in Brooklyn Center near Minneapolis. The Stream is up next, asking how dangerous climate misinformation is. Bye for now.
This week on The Cook-Up.